So it's Gordon Bryan here with another one of my election videos, and in this video I'd like to talk about a hung parliament. You've heard a lot about it in the news lately, particularly from the Conservatives, about a hung parliament. So I'd like to talk about what a hung parliament actually means and how it would affect me and my position if there were a hung parliament. So here we go. There are 625 MPs in this country, all standing in this election, and what normally happens in this, certainly, and it has happened since the mid-1970s, when we last had a hung parliament, what normally happens is that one single party, and it's been either the Labour or the Conservatives in this country, have got more than 325 MPs, and that means they have what's known as an overall majority. If all of their MPs vote with them in Parliament, which theoretically they're sort of obliged to do, they can force through and always guarantee getting any legislation passed or any policies through that they have, and that's called an overall majority. If, however, no single party gets 325 MPs, they haven't got an overall majority, and we get what's called a hung parliament. What happens when we get a hung parliament is that the parties then have to work together to talk to each other to try and form a coalition government, i.e. get a group of them together who can get over 325 MPs. The first person to have a crack at that is the Prime Minister, so that means Gordon Brown would have the first opportunity to try and form a coalition government, and he'd be talking primarily to the Liberal Democrats, but also to any smaller parties and independent MPs, and obviously that would affect me. I'll come on to that a little bit later, to see if he can get enough of them together to get 325 overall majority MPs. If he fails to do that, the leader of the opposition, and obviously that's David Cameron and the Conservative Party, they get a chance to talk to the other MPs and parties to see if they can form an overall majority. If neither of them can manage to do it, Parliament is dissolved and you get another general election. So if we did have a hung parliament, either the Labour Party or the Conservative Party would undoubtedly be coming to me to see if I would make a coalition government with them. And here's my answer: yes, I would. If it was the Labour Party or the Conservative Party and they wanted me to work with them, and maybe the Liberal Democrats, to form a coalition government, I would. And here's why: it wouldn't actually affect my position in the slightest. It wouldn't actually affect the way I represented the constituents at all, but what it would do would be to allow the Parliament to actually stand as it was. What I'm saying is, if I did get elected as an independent MP, the opportunity that I then created for the constituents here would be so important that I think it would be worth maintaining that position. And if that means that I was working in a coalition government, what I would absolutely insist on and make clear, and there would be no doubt about this, that on any votes on legislation, my vote would not be cast with Labour or with Conservative. It would be how the constituents told me. And obviously sometimes that means it would be voting with Labour. But if I was in a coalition government with Labour and the constituency told me to vote with Conservative, then I would vote with Conservative. And obviously vice versa. If I was in a coalition government with the Conservatives, but the constituency told me to vote with Labour, then I would vote with Labour. And that would be an unmovable condition of me working in any coalition. Sounds obvious, but I think it's worth saying that yeah, I would work with any of the others to form a coalition government, because that would maintain my position as an independent MP. If we had to have another election, obviously it would be possible that I wouldn't get re-elected as the independent MP, and then the opportunity I'd achieved for the constituents would be gone. So I think that's worth preserving, and obviously the position of my votes on legislation going how the constituency told me, that wouldn't be affected by working with any other party in a coalition government. So there we are. That's a little bit about hung parliaments. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Feel free to fire away and I'll explain it to you a little bit further if I need to. So that's the end of that video, and I'll see you on the next one.